Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
And welcome to Falls Area Community TV studio here at the Health Center. I'm Charlie Jarris, and I'm starting a new show called It Takes a Village. And I'm going to explain a little bit what I mean by it takes a village. It takes a village because I think everybody in the village, if possible, should get involved somehow. And I'm going to hopefully do a number of shows as time goes on, and to show people that they can only have to spend a couple of hours a month or even an hour a month in something they enjoy and getting involved and making a difference in your village or your town. So the appropriate name is It Takes a Village, because I think if we're looking to just have other people do it, it's not going to happen, or it won't happen as well. I'm not saying it isn't happening right now, because there's a lot of organizations that are doing a wonderful job. And I'm starting out with one particular organization, the Rockingham Free Public Library, that is doing a wonderful job. So I brought in the librarian, Ian Graham, and we were supposed to have Sam Howard, the children's librarian, but unfortunately she has the flu.
Be here.
She has the flu, and she won't be able to be here. So I want to start off with the library, because I started going to the library. I've always gone into the library now and then, but when I moved back into the village, which was about 6 months ago, I didn't get TV. It was too expensive, $150 a month. I said, I don't need it. But then I said, geez, I enjoyed TV. So I started going into the library to rent DVDs, because I knew they had hundreds of DVDs. And I found out a lot about the library in that period of time, and especially where the DVD is concerned. I mean, it's an education for me now, because I found out how many documentaries you have and how you keep on getting more. This is Ian Graham. He's our librarian. I'm sure many people know who he is, but maybe people don't know. And he's a very welcoming person. I mean, it's amazing. And all the people that work there are very welcoming. I mean, even I was really surprised. And once you walk in the door, hi, how are you? Good morning, type of thing. And that's the way it should be. That's great.
Absolutely.
I would like you to just tell folks a little about yourself. All right, where you came from, married, so forth and so on. Can you just talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I have worked in libraries for 25 years. I worked primarily in academic libraries before I started working up here in Bellows Falls at the municipal library, the public library. And I have two children. They're both in college right now. One's on the West Coast and one's in the Hudson Valley. And I've been married for nearly 25 years, and we are in the process of permanently relocating up here at this point. But I've been living in town for about 3.25 years since I started working in late 2021 at the library.
Now, had you ever been to Rockingham prior to that, or was it just an ad for a librarian? How did that work?
Well, so I was interested in switching out. I'd worked in academics for a long time, and I was looking for a different challenge. And so I wanted to do two things. I wanted to move to public libraries, and I wanted to live someplace that I really wanted to live. And so, with the kids finishing with school and stuff, our priorities were shifting. And so Vermont generally was a place that I wanted to live. We lived in Maine for 6 years before the kids were when the kids were born and stuff, and then we lived in Massachusetts for 18 years while they were growing up. And so we wanted to live somewhere that we wanted to live, and that was the kind of environment we wanted to be in. And I wanted to work in public libraries, and so when the job opened up, I thought, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking about wanting to do.
So I'll go for this job, right? Did you investigate Bellows Falls at all?
Oh, yeah.
so it's a very diverse community.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
So what was your impression of it? I mean,
I think probably for me, because of my professional history and my personal interests, the history of the area was really compelling right from the start. It has a long, rich, fascinating history. I worked at Wellesley College for 10 years.
Oh.
And the main administration building that was built in 1931 or 32 at Wellesley College is Green Hall. But the full name of it is Hetty H.R. Green Hall.
No kidding.
And so I knew about Hetty Green since 2005 or 6 when I started working at Wellesley College. And so when I discovered that she had, lived basically the last years of her life here,
right,
and is buried here and stuff, I mean, that was very interesting historical kind of echo for me from when I had, because at Wellesley we didn't understand exactly why she had paid for this building. Turned out it was money donated after she had died, and she didn't go to Wellesley or anything like that. So she and we knew she was the so-called richest woman in the world or whatever because of the various stories around her. And so when I started looking into Bellows Falls, it was not just the architecture and the history, but this one figure also was pretty fascinating, given that I had already crossed paths with her in a way before.
So it was almost like destined in a way. I mean, it's just something that there you are at Wellesley College and Hetty Green Hall, and then coming to apply for a job at a public
years
library.
Years
later, and there it was. I mean, it was almost destined to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start out with talking about the beginning of the library here.
Yep.
Now, you give that little history that you had just given me about when they first having a library here in Rockingham and where it was back then, because according to the Rockingham history by Lovell, it started in 1888. But we really had a library prior to that.
Yeah, there was what I understand to be a subscription library, which was a common practice at the time, where you basically pay $1 or something to be a member of this lending library, and that was how it was funded. It was the precursor to generally publicly funded libraries in the U.S. at least. And so in the 1790s, I think it was established as a subscription lending library for members,
right,
people who chose to be members. And then in 1888 or whatever, and we have a volunteer who recently discovered a ledger that has the minutes from the original library board of trustees from 1887, 1888, handwritten in this journal. I mean, literally in the last 2 or 3 weeks, this thing has been unearthed.
Popped up, yeah.
And so it popped up. And so thank you, Alexa, for digging through a lot of historical materials to produce these gems. But yes, so that's the origins of it. And now we have documented history that we can look through and read the minutes and stuff like that for that. And then after it was established in the late 1880s, changing from this subscription model to this public model, then in the first decade of the 1900s, Carnegie was funding libraries and funded the library here to be built, and then it's been in that building and run ever since that time.
And that's where we're going to start. I think I mean we're going to talk about the library today. While you're at the head of it, okay. But I want to give the people that may be watching a little bit of history on how we got here, and we're going to do it through photographs that were in the library actually.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people go into the library and they see these photographs, they have no idea. And I know that some of them you have a little descriptions of what it is, so forth and so on. So we're starting off with the cornerstone back in, I believe it was 1907. And it was, and this is a little bit of history. As you say, Andrew Carnegie, okay, and in this little piece that you're going to be reading is going to say how many that he was to give away or to fund, okay, around the world, not just, most of them in the United States, over 1,800 just in the United States. But it was over 2,000 that he paid for to build around the world.
Yep.
So to start off is that if you could read that little history, is where that little yellow piece is.
Yeah, this is the 1958 history of the town of Rockingham, Vermont by Lovell. It's sort of the follow-up to the Lyman Hayes history of town of Rockingham from
And you have these
1907.
books
We
in
have
the
these
library.
books in the
That's
library.
not from the library, this is my book. That's
Yep,
why I can
but
mark it up.
We absolutely have many copies of this book in the
Yeah,
library.
which is great. So Ian's going to read a little bit of what happened in I would imagine 1907, or a little before 1907, maybe 1906, when Andrew Carnegie said, we'll donate the money for you to build it. So
Yep.
if you could read those few paragraphs.
Sure. The new Rockingham Free Public Library was not acquired without a struggle, as were most things in this or any town. By 1905, the library in the town hall building was proving inadequate for the books, as people were doing more reading than when the first library card was issued in 1888 to Dr. C.F. Meacham. In 1905, Andrew Carnegie, that cocky little 5-foot Scotsman who made his money in iron and steel and who was to spend it on 2,811 libraries, 1,846 of them in the United States, offered one of them to Rockingham. Carnegie believed that, quote, the removal of ignorance could be accomplished by exposure to books, unquote, an idea generally accepted as the years went on. His first libraries, which appeared as far back as 1881, were always required to have the words, "Let there be light," on the building, accompanied by an open book in bronze or stone. The Age of the Moguls, Stuart Holbrook. This fanciful decoration had been dropped by the time Rockingham came into the picture. The town had appropriated enough money to buy the Walter Smith land on Henry Street, and a building committee was chosen. The new library was assured. Then the next year, with the unpredictability which characterizes many town affairs, it was voted down. There was much confusion, and many people did not understand the terms of the offer. To clarify things, the Board of Trade published a pamphlet informing the town of the terms and why it should accept Mr. Carnegie's kind offer before he died or changed his mind. The committee in charge of disseminating this information, consisting of N.G. Williams, A.E. Tuttle, and Dr. Edward Kirkland. The terms of the offer, as set forth on the booklet, were 1, that the town should provide a suitable lot, and 2, appropriate $1,500 a year for maintenance of the same, a sum based, as was the donor's custom, on the census reports. There were no other obligations, and it was stated clearly that the donor did not expect 10% interest on his gift, and that the terms expected were the usual ones attached to such gifts to hold the recipients to good faith in the project. The committee and Board of Trade felt that the town should not turn down this opportunity for a much-needed library, and in case it was so short-sighted that it would soon be compelled to provide a library without any help.
And we got it.
And we got it.
And we got it. It must have went up for vote again.
Yep.
And it was voted in. And I want to show a few pictures that are in the library. This is a painting. I'm not sure who the artist is, but this is what I mean about talking about. I mean, I'm sure it's a local artist.
It is a local artist. It's Debbie Wetzel, yeah.
Okay, so who is it?
Debbie Wetzel.
And here, I mean, she donated this to, or
I believe this is before my time. I don't know if it was purchased by the library.
And this is in the library. And isn't this a wonderful photograph?
Well, it's a wonderful photograph. It's a wonderful painting, and also it's a painting that was reproduced in prints and which were sold as a fundraiser by the library in the past before my time.
They were on cards, too.
They were also on cards, but
note
they're also
cards.
prints that were
Yeah, so you
done.
can go into the library, and I still think that you sell those
We
note
do.
cards.
Yeah.
And what a great way to, I mean, not too many people send note cards any longer, but this is wonderful. This one really impressed me.
Yeah.
You know, with the full moon in a winter scene. I mean, it is.
This is obviously what it looked like last night. So.
That's right. That's right. And, yeah, absolutely. And this is the library, I take it, before the additions were put on.
Yep.
Now, I was looking at this. Now, in the back, okay, there's another back part to it, right, that
Yep.
was added on?
Yep.
Okay, and that was before
The side.
this side was.
Yep.
So there was 2 real construction jobs done on this library
Yeah.
over the period of time that it's been here, the 100.
So at the time it was built, the common structure of libraries was that the stacks were actually not where the public browsed and looked for books. There was a big desk, and all the books were kept behind it. So one would go in the front door and request a book of the librarian,
Right.
and then the book would be retrieved and stuff. And so this is how the building was when it was originally opened in 1909. And then I think it was 1929 that the back part of the building was added on.
Okay.
And so that made it quite a bit bigger. It also, at some point, maybe right away, became the children's room. And people in town have told me, a number of people in town have told me that, they grew up visiting that children's room when they were growing up in town. And that the staircase that's off of Temple Ave or Temple Place that goes into that was what they were required to use. It was back in the side.
Right.
So they didn't bother all the serious adults who were doing all their research and reading in the front of the building.
Wow. You see, I didn't know any of that. I mean, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course, now the youth department is a huge department downstairs after the other addition, but that's where it was, back in the fireplace room, as we call it.
So this is another painting. Do you know who this one is by?
No, I don't know who this is.
Okay,
Right off the top of my head.
and these are all in the library.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people probably go into the library, but never really look around and just to see all these wonderful pieces of art.
Yeah.
And photographs.
Yep.
And we're going to get into some of the photographs also. Now, this is a shot that I had taken from Fall Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and it obviously shows the old Armory, Riverview, that's the apartment building now,
Yep.
and beside it, and you can get really a sense of the new library.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking you, the white part on the left-hand side of the library, what do you think that was? But you mentioned that it must be part of the elevator.
That's the elevator shaft.
And I don't know if everyone knows, but there is an elevator to the second floor, into the first floor,
Yes.
the basement,
Yes.
in it, and that's the new part of it. And I have to say, they did a wonderful job in the construction of making it look like it was back in 1909, that all of that was built.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the brickwork, because I took a really close look at the brickwork, there is, you can see
tell
it
the
if
difference.
you really look close.
Yeah.
But from a shot like this, and they
It
did
looks intact, yeah.
and it's a limited piece of property,
Mhm.
when you think about it.
Yeah, it's taken up most of it at this point.
And another thing is that, if you haven't climbed Fall Mountain, is another reason to climb Fall Mountain. If you like to take photographs, here are shots that you can get down with the new cameras and stuff, even with a cell phone, and they get these shots. And let's go to another one. Now this is a shot that the reason I took this shot is because that's Hetty Green.
Yes.
Okay, and you put your head in
Yes.
there, right? And we had you on the second floor. You had a reading of Hetty Green,
Yep.
which was wonderful. And if you talk about Hetty Green, and I think Hetty Green should be put on a pedestal, in a sense. I mean, people have negative attitudes towards her, but you think of a woman back in 1916 when she passed away, was supposedly the richest woman in the world, and she lived in Bellows Falls. I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, that alone, these are and I want to just talk a little bit about all the stuff that you do in this library beyond books
Right.
and DVDs, is that you have all kinds of other activities on the second floor that go on. And we can go into that further.
Sure.
So this is Andrew Carnegie.
It is.
This is the man, okay? This is Andrew, all right? What did they say, the 5'6" Scottish?
5 foot.
5 foot. He was 5 feet high. He was 5 feet,
didn't know that.
right? I mean, U.S. Steel was really started by him. And Japan wants to buy U.S. Steel from him in today's world. But the point is that here's the man, okay, that was responsible. And you told me that there's only 5 libraries and 4 libraries in Vermont that are Carnegie libraries.
Yes.
And we're one of them.
We are. I think it's Fairhaven, Morristown Centennial, and Fletcher Free, I think, are the other 3, but people should check Wikipedia, which lists that, make sure I'm right about that. But there's only 4 altogether in Vermont.
And this photograph, this painting, there's a painting, right? It's got to be a painting.
It's a print of a painting.
Yeah, it's a painting. It is in the library. And if you do go into the library, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. So this was something I found quite interesting. This was in 1910, the first year you were actually officially open, not that you were
In
around
this
it.
building, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and this is your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now if you look at the budget right now, I don't know if you can see that the total budget was $3,487, and he actually puts the cents. I think it was 9 cents or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what it cost to run the library back in 1909.
Yep.
Now here it is, 100 and I don't know, 20 years later. Okay, let's just say 120 years later, and the town meeting's coming up. All right. And of course, inflation has put everything up, okay, in life.
Mm-hmm.
But in 120, how much has gone up? And this is another reason why I wanted to have this show today, because I want to show people how important the library is. In my mind, especially, okay, now that I've educated myself on the library and all the things that happen in the library, beyond what I thought happened. I mean, I knew they had DVDs and I knew they had books on tape, which was great too, because I love listening to books on tape, and of course books. But all the other activities, which we're going to talk about that they have, and I don't have any problem with being a taxpayer and what they're asking for to continue to run this library. In fact, I think it's pretty reasonable, to be quite honest. Just wanted to throw that in here.
I appreciate that very much. We think it's a good deal for the town too.
Okay, this is, I'm going to be
Pulaski,
showing,
yep.
This is the Bellows Falls downtown scene of oil painting by Stephen Pulaski, November 25th, 1935. Do you want to say who Stephen was? Do you know his
I know
history at
a
all?
bit, but there's other people around who know a lot more about Stephen Pulaski than I do. But what I know is he was a local guy, he's an artist, and he painted a number of things that are in the general area as part of the Works Project Administration, the WPA, during the Great Depression. And so there was many artists and other folks who were hired to do, bridges were being built, murals were being painted. I mean, the federal government at that time was employing a lot of people through the WPA, and part of the result of that was things like this painting that belongs actually almost certainly to the federal government because it paid for it. But I know there's 2 other murals by Pulaski in town now, and there's 2 others that have recently come to town, and so.
Oh, really?
That's my understanding. And so, Pulaski is an important local artist, and especially because he captured downtown Bellows Falls in 1935. And to me, it's very interesting because it was part of the WPA, which is a really interesting part of American history.
And this is in the library.
Yes.
This is small. I think it's like an 8 by 12 or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, painting of it. But this is what downtown. In fact, there's the Canal House.
Yep.
Which was a hotel.
The Rockingham Hotel, right? Yeah.
Rockingham Hotel back in those days.
Yep.
And by Lovell, and I think it says 18, whatever it says up there.
1883, maybe.
1883. And this is a very important painting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is, and you said that there are 2 other in town. You go into the middle school, and that's one of the problems I have with those being in the middle school. Nobody sees them. And this is something that I think should be discussed at some point, because one of them is the Abenaki Indians fishing down at where the petroglyphs are in the river for the salmon and the shad. And the other one is for when that minister, Williams, Reverend Williams, was captured by the Indians and brought up to Canada, and they stayed right at that place where there's a place right where the old Highlands was. A lot of people remember the Highlands, but right across the street there's a stone monument talking about when this particular painting, beautiful paintings, but they're in the middle school, and unfortunately very few people see them. And I've taken photographs of them many times and tried to let folks know that they were there. But now with the schools the way they are, you just can't go into the schools any longer. They're almost like lockdown.
Where are they in the middle school?
On the stairs, when you go into the front doors, and there's 2 staircases going up, beautiful entrance. I mean, really beautiful entrance. And on either side of those stairs, one side on the right-hand side is the Abenaki painting, and the other one is on the Reverend Williams
So
going out.
So it might be a good idea to remind people that they'll all be going to the middle school on March 1st for the town meeting at 2 o'clock, and they'll have a chance to see those murals as they walk in the building.
Very good. Remember. I mean, if you're watching this, okay. But actually, they should have a sign
Right.
that says, "Be sure to look on both sides and what it represents." That would be maybe a good idea. Somebody sees this, especially if maybe the town manager, Scott. If you see this or if you hear about it, mention that maybe we should have something saying that. Okay. Stephen Pulaski.
Yep.
All right, I want to talk about this because this is before the restoration was done.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is basically how it looked. And of course, you see that wonderful clock
Yep.
on the right-hand side, that
Yeah.
grandfather clock. And I have other photographs of that, and we'll talk about that. But was this sort of how it was back in the old days? They would come to the counter,
Yep.
and they weren't allowed to go pick up their old book. They would come up and say, "Well, I need a book on whatever."
Yeah, that's my understanding. All the shelves were right behind. That's where the librarian was waiting for people so they could give them the books and stuff.
And the other thing I wanted to mention to folks also is that you see the fireplace right over to the right? There were two of those fireplaces at that time, which is sort of a shame that they had taken those out.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they did.
Yep.
But this is what I mean now, how wonderful and beautiful this library looked. And not that it doesn't do it now,
Yep.
but it did have a different character
It did.
back in those days for sure. And that clock is still there.
The clock is still there. The columns are gone, but you could see on the floor where
Where
the
they
columns were.
That's right.
And you can see the slate
Where
where
the
the
fireplaces
fireplaces
were.
both sides, and you can also see where the flues were. And if you look up the wall, and of course that desk is gone, and people freely move through the building.
Right. I mean, it's a great opening. I mean, it could be an art museum.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it's open now, I mean, without a doubt. So, this is a town report for the librarian from February 1909. Furnishes the clock, the Women's Club. And I really want to talk a little bit about the Women's Club. I mean, I am so impressed. I mean, this is way back. This was 120 years ago, right? And they were probably cool then, the women in the Women's Club, right? But they are still a very strong organization.
Absolutely.
And you know, because they do a lot for the library.
They do. They're
And-
very generous, and they're right. Absolutely.
So they acquired this clock
They did for the library.
for the library.
They did.
And this is, I mean, I want to let the women know of the Women's Club, okay? I'm impressed, okay? And I always have been impressed, because you put stuff in the newspaper of what you be doing, so forth and so on. And you're very involved with, I think, a structure and something that really needs to be helped, the library. As much as it can. And not just by the taxpayers, by regular citizens, okay, of the community. And there's a lot of renters out there, and you actually pay your rent pay taxes through your rent. So it's not like you're not paying, the taxes either. But there's a lot of people out there that can get involved, not with just the library, but other things, and that's why I'm doing this show. All right, the Women's Club. This is part of your Women's Club. This is I guess a dedication,
Rededication.
a rededication of the clock, right?
Mhm.
And I'm sure many people know who these folks are. I know. Who
I would
many of
think,
these
yeah. I mean, I would think so. These are prominent people in town, and yeah. So the story with this is that a couple of years ago, the clock really needed to be refurbished. It just needed maintenance and sort of. And so a local person who works on these things took an interest, and so he worked on it for quite some time and basically restored it essentially to its original operating. It works great now. It keeps very good time, and it gongs the hour again, which it hadn't been doing for a long time. And it was interesting because there was a little bit of mixed, feeling about that because, libraries traditionally have a reputation of being quiet places. That's not true anymore. But, the idea that this thing was going to ring out. But it's actually because of the grandeur of the building, because of the architecture and the design of it,
Right.
It rings one time at the half
Yeah.
hour, and then for each hour. However many, and it's lovely. It just rings through the building, and we really appreciate the fact that we were able to get it functioning well again, and the Women's Club was so grateful that they rededicated it in the space.
That's what I mean about the Women's Club.
It's fabulous.
I really, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, even prior to the library, they were doing it. So I'm very impressed with the Women's Club and all the people that continue to get involved. And they have a lot of women that are in it. They seem to have every time they'll be in the paper, and I count like 20. And that's pretty good for a small community like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was invited to speak to them a couple of years ago, and it was wonderful. It was great. You know, I had a chance to go to one of their meetings and tell them about what we were doing at the library and what we thought they'd appreciate learning and hearing about and stuff. And they were very gracious and great group to engage with. So
Hooray for the Women's Club.
I'll go back again if I get invited.
And
Yeah,
here's another, the Village Falls Women's Club. 1901, they were established, I guess. Yeah, that was interesting.
So it wasn't that long before.
Yeah, and they're still, and there's got to be about 20 right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, one thing that they do that we really appreciate is that they bring sweets around the holidays every year just for the employees of the library. And so we get this wonderful little basket of cookies and brownies and everything. And it's great, you know. I mean, we all just sort of, you know, appreciate it.
Women
And
know
so-
what makes people happy. You know that? Especially people that are in libraries.
Well, and you know, I was told, and I love this story, and I don't know, you know, I believe it is true, but that part of that story about when the town first voted down the money, that the Women's Club, which now we know was fairly recently formed, went
Yeah.
around and basically said to everybody, you know, we want this library, and you all have to vote for this library. And then the next time it came up, everyone voted for the library. So originally I thought, well, they're responsible for a lot of support and for this clock that they gave, but really they're responsible for the library existing at all, if that story is true, which I think probably at least some of it is.
Wow.
And then they gave the clock sort of as the, you know,
Very
the
interesting.
tangible
Yeah.
evidence of that.
You
So-
see, here we are talking about things that we're learning. Okay, I'm learning from you, and you're learning from me, I
Yeah.
hope.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what I want people to be able to learn, okay? And that's what the library is all about, is to increase your knowledge about things. And I have a lot through the library, especially in the last 6 months, not just through my DVDs, but the documentaries, and we're going to talk about that a little bit further if we can get along here. All right, this is I'm not sure who that is, but I think she was the first back in 1909.
Maybe. Somebody was telling me that, actually Sam, I think, was telling me that this is actually from the 50s.
Oh.
And that she was dressed up like as if it was from 1909 or something
Okay.
like that. But I didn't learn any more than that about it. So, but I think that's the story, is it's more like hearkening back to rather than of the time.
Well, she was definitely dressed for the
Yes, she was
times.
dressed for the
so it
times.
must have been something for maybe
Right.
the dedication of
And
the
around the
library.
clock, which maybe they were dedicating the clock yet another time that time. So
Now this is the clock fixer.
that's the clock
This is the
fixer.
clock fixer.
It
That's
is.
why he was in that other picture
Yes,
too. He was the
yeah.
only man in that picture. Okay, here's the clock fixer.
Yes, so the Women's Club was obviously grateful, as we were, for his work on the clock, and his name is Rick Matthews. He's a local guy, and he was fantastic to work with, and really fun, and really his appreciation for the opportunity to work on the clock was infectious. You know, we all got excited about, you know, it getting done and it coming back and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a while after it came back, I saw him on the street one day and I told him about this, but it would ring, it was totally functioning well, except every day at 1:12 it would gong one time. So it would gong at 1 o'clock once for the hour and then at 1:30, but in between. And he's like, that's weird. Does it bother you? And I said, no, it's pretty cool. You know, it's totally unexplainable why it's doing this. And so we just decided to leave it, and then it eventually stopped doing it. So it gave up whatever ghost that was, you know. But now it just rings normally. And
Interesting.
yeah, and it does kind of play into my belief that most problems left alone figure out how to solve themselves eventually. So.
That's so true. That's so true. I agree with you 100%. Now, do you know who this is?
I think that might be, no, I don't. I think it might be Miss Fish, but I'm not sure.
It is.
Okay,
Betty Fish. She was a celebrity.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, she was a
Everybody talks
celebrity.
about her.
I'm sure a lot of people out there, if you may be watching, remember, especially at a certain age, you remember Betty Fish.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, a lot of men visited the library at that time, you know, because Betty was known for her, I guess, short dresses were in then, okay, and that, well, at least this is what I've heard, okay, and as you can see, she was a beautiful lady, you know, in this photograph. Betty Fish.
And there's the clock, too.
And there's the clock.
And where is this, actually? Because, so those are the front doors, but they are glass there. And now they're wooden frame doors again. So I guess when the renovation was done about 10 years ago, they went back to the original doors, I guess. That's very strange.
And she was a Miss Betty Fish.
Betty Fish.
She's never married, I guess.
I don't know anything about her personal life. That's interesting. I can't quite get the angle on what's going on there, because that isn't the front door, so I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, I'll visit that another
looks
time.
like it's your office.
Well, it does. So that door there.
That's your office.
So this is before something went.
Yeah.
Huh. So there's a stairwell there now. So anyway, I'm gonna revisit that. Now I'm curious.
Made possible by the generous donors, the Violet Bridge. This is the painting, okay, that's in there. Jerry, how do you say his last name?
Foal is what I understand.
And I met him, you know, before he passed away, and I had seen that painting, okay. And I think originally, I said, because I'm very forward, and I said, well, how much do you want for that painting? And his wife was there. And she says, $45,000.
Okay.
So I said, wow, right, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful painting, and this is leading up to the painting, okay?
Yeah.
So as you go into the library, you know, you see the rates of the toll bridge, the Tucker toll bridge, you know, so forth and so on. And this is leading up to the fireplace at the back of the building with the painting,
Yep.
Jerry's painting on.
So that room is the room that was the children's room. That's the room that was added in 1929. Has the door to the right in this picture that the kids would come in and out of, so they didn't disrupt everyone. And now it's got that painting in it.
Well, that was cool that you put it in a fireplace, or not you.
When they
When
opened
they
it up.
did, they put it in a fireplace.
All three of the fireplaces presumably were working for some period of time.
Yeah.
But they, not anymore. Fire and books don't mix, so.
So here's a closer, picture of it. And I really wanted to sort of get, have people, as you can see, it's the Violet Bridge, and it's just a wonderful painting. And here's a close-up of it. And now, what's the story of this? How did the library end up with it?
Well, there was this before I started, but there was a group of major donors listed on the plaque who put put enough, raised enough money to purchase it so that it could be donated to the library. And then this is a place of honor, to say the least, that it was put in.
Absolutely.
And so, that it was thanks to the generosity.
In fact, that's the list.
Yep.
So if you go into the library, and if you want to see who donated the money to be able to purchase that, it's right there on the right-hand side of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about art. Oops, wrong way. Okay, I had no idea. No, we had talked a little before the show started about art.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have Brad Dunbar, who I know. Okay, I had no idea he was a painter.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. So you show that an area that he does watercolors in Project Space 9 at the gallery. I don't know if it's still there, but on Canal Street.
Yep.
Now that's one of the places where they show art. But you actually have a poster. That's a poster, right? Or is that his art?
That's a poster, but his art is beside it.
His art is beside it.
Yeah.
So you show some local art.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
yes. I mean, we want to show local art. We invite people to get in touch with us to show their art. We have hangers so that we can hang art around the building. And, we have a schedule that we try to follow so that people have an opportunity to put things on the walls and stuff like that. And this is an interesting one because the bulk of this exhibition was, as you say, down on Canal Street. But Robert and others asked us if they could put a few things in the library because any chance we have to collaborate with different organizations
Sure.
in town, try to take advantage of that. And the Dunbars are great folks, and so we were like, yeah, this would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
without a doubt.
And so,
They're both very involved.
Yeah.
Okay, in town
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah.
So if somebody is an artist, like I was talking about, Judd's daughter, okay, is interested in maybe showing her art.
Yeah.
All right, and they would just contact somebody in the library
Yeah.
and talk about it.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to talk to anyone about that.
Remember that, folks, okay? If you're an artist, all right, and you're out there and you want to show your stuff, I mean, this may be an ongoing thing, or what it is an ongoing thing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many artists you have coming in saying that to you.
A few.
Yeah, so, and there's some really, I think, wonderful artists out there in the hills
Mm-hmm.
of not just Rockingham, but in the area
Yeah.
that don't know how to promote themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the library's open 6 days a week. It's open 10 to 6, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 to 5:30, Thursday, Friday, and 10 to 2 now on Saturdays. We just extended that by an hour recently this month.
That's right.
And so it's, and it's a public building. So if somebody has their artwork on the walls there, there's lots of opportunity for people to come and see it. Even people who are working all week on Saturday can come and see it. And so it's very public that way.
Okay, I want to talk. I want to talk about microfiche for a minute. Okay.
Sure.
So the Bellows Falls Times,
Yeah.
as you say, was started in business. You gave a
I
date.
think it was the 1850s, but
Okay, so say
Give or
about the
take.
1850s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so supposedly, okay, on microfiche, and I know I've used this machine a couple of times in my old travels with Charlie to find out things, and that you have in the library boxes of microfiche that you have to put it in that machine
Yeah.
and to be able to
Scroll through it.
to stroll through it. So, for instance, if I wanted to look up Hetty Green, okay, the day of her death, okay, and I wanted to see the obituary in the Bellows Falls Times, I could go to the microfiche and find out what date that is, so forth and so on. I know it was in 1916,
Yeah.
and be able to find out exactly what people said about her in the Bellows Falls Times back then. Now, this is all on microfiche, obviously, so it's sort of outdated the way you have to look for this history. So I was asking Ian earlier that can this be put on the computer? Can this be digitally done? And of course, this costs money, all right? When you do stuff, like this, it costs money. But I'm wondering if there's anybody in the community that has done this before, okay, taken old stuff that wanted to do digital, that maybe be able to give us some advice on how you start this and who you would approach to do it, how difficult it is. So if somebody's watching this, please,
I've done this.
so you've done it.
Absolutely. I've done it for lots of things.
Okay.
I've digitized zillions of things.
So
Books and photographs and maps and manuscripts and all kinds of stuff.
So this is microfiche. So maybe
So
a little bit more.
it's a little
more
microfiche.
complicated.
It's actually it's easier and worse. So here's the deal with digitizing microfilm, which is what this is. It's on the roll. You can scan it as it is and digitize it and then put it online, frame by frame. But the problem with that is that you're using what was not a great medium to begin with. It was fairly rudimentary photography, simple black and white photography
Right.
to capture the pages, and it was done in a very production-minded way. So the contrast of a lot of the pages tends to not be great. And so when you digitize that, you're not getting any of that back. So ideally, because digital technology is far superior, not to good photography, but to microfilm technology, you would digitize the original newspapers page by page. That's outrageously expensive and would likely not get done for a very long time. It's much cheaper to digitize the microfilm, and at least you have access to it. And all they do is they run the film through a machine that scans every shot that's on the film.
So what we're looking to do, to make a long story short, okay, what I'd like to see happen is for this to be digitized and put on, so I can, if I want to look up something, all I got to do is go on the computer and put, 1916 Hetty Green,
Yeah.
Type of thing. And I think it would be great for a lot of people, especially for students, if you're doing local history, and which hopefully they're doing that in our schools. You know, I remember when Dennis Ladd used to bring the students around, walk around the village, go to the Adams Grist Mill and stuff. I don't know, the middle school kids. I don't know if they're still doing that, but I thought that was a wonderful idea. And if they're not doing it, I think it should still be done, at least in the village, because there's so much history in our little village. And why I want to bring up this microfiche is that I know it costs money. So it's something that I think I would like to, get involved with, at least talking about how to raise the funds for something like this. All right, enough about that.
It's a great opportunity. I agree with you. It'd be fantastic.
So this is the library in Saxon's River. They're bookmobiles or whatever it is.
Yeah, this is just last summer, right?
I don't know when this photograph was taken, but it's in the library.
Yeah.
And how cool is this?
Yeah. So it's called a book cart brigade, right? Where it's like a choreographed kind of thing. It's the first time I'm aware of the Friends of the Library doing it up here. It's something that's been done elsewhere too, and it's a wonderful kind of parade entry. It's a wonderful thing to be represented in the parade, and it is the Friends of the Library who did that, not the library itself.
Yeah, so let's add, there's the Friends of the Library,
Yep.
and then there's the Rockingham Free Public Library Board.
Yep.
And I think there's, between the two, we've talked about this, about 20 people that are between the two of them, right?
Yep.
Around 20
Yep.
people.
Yep.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That you have that many folks that are wanting to devote time and effort, obviously, because they do things like this to it. And these are the type of things I want to bring up on a regular basis, because I think a lot of organizations need this type of participation of folks in our community that's saying, oh, geez, what can I do? There's a lot of things you can do.
Right.
Not necessarily just for the library, but for a lot of organizations.
Right.
And this is what this show's going to be all about. All right, Ken Burns. Everybody knows who Ken Burns is, right? Ken Burns lives over in Walpole. He's a documentary maker, a wonderful documentary maker. And I've seen most of his, if not all, his documentaries. And I believe that the library has, if not almost all of them.
All but one, I think.
Many of them.
All but one.
Okay. And that if you want to learn, if you want to teach your children about history, American history, because 99% of what he does is American history, from the Civil War to World War II to Vietnam, Mark Twain, the Brooklyn Bridge, they're all wonderful too. And and the thing is, I don't think they're really for grammar school kids, but they're definitely for middle school, I would think, and high school.
Sure.
And basically, what he's saying, can you read this for the folks?
Sure. Being an American means reckoning with a history fraught with violence and injustice. Ignoring that reality in favor of mythology is not only wrong, but also dangerous. The dark chapters of American history have just as much to teach us, if not more, than the glorious ones, and often the two are intertwined. As some question how to teach American history to our children, and even question the history itself, I urge us to confront the hard truth and to trust our children with it, because a truly great nation is one that can acknowledge its failures.
Ken Burns. And I think his documentaries should be being shown in every high school, if not every middle school, but definitely high school. I mean, if you can't afford to teach American history in our schools, then you can do this. And maybe the library can be part of this. I don't know. But I'm just saying this is maybe an idea that should be talked about and thought about, because I think his films are very educational for kids to know what America had to go through to get to 2025. And this is what basically what he's telling these stories. Hetty Green. All right, so I threw this picture up of Hetty Green, and this is actually this picture of Hetty Green was at the Rockingham Meeting House. That's why I took this photograph, because this is something that I think they should have a bronze statue somewhere in Bellows Falls, probably in the square, of Hetty Green, because I think a lot of people, if they knew her history, being a woman, being the richest woman in the world when she died, would be very interesting. Now, I just threw this in because Tom Salmon just passed away. I mean, this is part of our history. Tom actually was a member of the Rockingham Free Public Library, grew up in this community. And I just wanted to mention that his celebration of life is going to be later on sometime. Just want to let you know. And this actually, this photograph, or not photograph or whatever it is in one of the stores, or is sold. It was one of the stores in downtown Bellows Falls. I don't know. Oh, wrong way. Okay, that's the last of the pictures. And we only have
Wow.
we only have a few minutes.
So let me talk about the Friends of the Library real quick.
Yes.
That's right. So, we talked about the Women's Club Fairmount and mentioned the Friends of the Library, but I think it's just worth pointing out what you said is, really accurate. This is a group of people that their involvement and enthusiasm and support for the library, is a major contributor to the success of the library, and they do a lot of very community-minded events like the plant sale and the holiday party that they throw every year.
Yeah.
And these things that are really, ways that they both support the library, give back to the community, and, I think just really lift up the whole community altogether. And so they're a great example of an organization that, through their enthusiasm and hard work and kind of generosity, makes a big difference in town. And I'm grateful for them constantly because of all they do for the library. And so it's, it's like the library wouldn't, just like the Women's Club, the library might not exist if it weren't for that group, because maybe they got everyone to vote for it when everyone needed to. The Friends of the Library have been really important to the success of the library, too. They fund things that benefit the town all the time, such as, because we should talk about DVDs for a second, such as Biblio Plus, which is a streaming service that the library provides all the cardholders in town to watch video for free. It's like Netflix, but it's not Netflix, and it doesn't cost anything because the Friends pay for it. And so anyone with a Rockingham Library card, and any resident of the town is welcome to get one, can use this streaming service for free with their library card.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. That's very interesting. Yeah.
But we are also building up the DVD collection, and you mentioned this earlier. It really struck us that people come in as if we're Blockbuster in the 90s, and they're like, I want to watch a movie. I want to get a pizza and watch a movie or whatever. And so, right, you're a great example of this. And so we thought there was a lot of libraries around that are actually getting rid of their DVD collections, and we're actually taking them when they do, because we know that our community really, many people in the community appreciate this. They don't want to pay for the streaming. They live outside of town and their internet isn't great, or they don't have it, or whatever. And so, there's lots of or they just don't want to pay for cable like you. And
many of them can't.
Or many of them can't.
Yeah.
And so we have thousands of DVDs, and we're only going to have more. I'm driving to another library before the end of the month to pick up something like 300 or 400 DVDs that will add to the collection. And so, this is something that we're leaning heavily into just because it occurred to us, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback that people appreciate it. And it's hard to get many of the new things that are coming out on DVD because they're, obligated to the streaming services. Like if Netflix produces something, it might never come out on DVD. And so, instead of like being frustrated that there's a lot of things coming out we can't get, we're just accumulating all the stuff at no cost or little cost that we can get and adding it to the collection.
Ian, thank you very much for coming in. My first show of It Takes a Village.
My pleasure.
And I just want to remind people that March 1st at 2 o'clock at the middle school this year.
With the Velasquez murals.
With the Velasquez murals. It's the town meeting at the middle school at 2 o'clock. And be sure to attend. I mean, it's going to be on a Saturday afternoon. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to attend. And they hold, I don't know, probably 200 or 300 people. So it would be nice to see 200 people at our town meeting. That'd be the first time in a long time that I can remember that many people showed up. And there's a lot of issues that, and you can if you have an issue, you can get up and talk. You know, just find out at the right time, okay? Just can't get up any time and talk. But the thing is, I think people, especially new folks, if you want to find out what this community is all about and the needs of this community, go to town meeting. And obviously, if I continue to have this show, continue to watch It Takes a Village. Thank you, folks, for watching.